Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm working on a 2017 Dodge pickup truck, color code PW7. This truck had a lot of front end damage and a lot of body work. As you can tell, it had a lot of front end damage and some went down this whole complete side, even into the bed, along with the driver's fender. Here I'm laying the sealer. I'm applying the PPG Aquabase system. This is a white wet on wet sealer, 75% overlap. Normally I just apply the sealer over the primer area, blend my sealer, but in this case we're refinishing the entire side, obviously the entire hood, and a blend on the driver's fender. For the sealer I use my gtiprolite devilbiss 1.3 at 28 pounds, and the sealer I use is slow reducer. It helps it flow out real nice. Your first substrate has to be really smooth. Your finished product is only as smooth as what's under it. You have to start with the first coat, just being as consecutive as possible. Cautious with your overlaps. Make sure your pressure's right. Looks like now this is my first coat of base, PW7. Same, 75% overlap. Actually, I've swapped to the Iwata LPH 400 with a 1.4 tip. This gun has amazing atomization. I spray all my colors with it. Metallics just lay out so beautiful. Obviously this isn't real time. I sped the video up. It was about 25 minutes long, so I decided to go ahead and speed it up. When I get to the last section with the clear, I'll run a coat real time so you can really see actually just how slow I apply it. With the water-based system, you have to dehydrate it, dry it in between every coat of base. So this is what you see here. I have the wedge type blower. Air movement dries super fast. Most of your whites, some other lighter colors, they'll still have like a semi-gloss to them. If it's a dark color, it just mats up super quick, just super fast. The water gets out of there and it's so dull. Once you're 100% sure that it's all dehydrated and dry, you can go ahead and start with your Clearcoat process. I went back to the devilbiss 1.3 gtiprolite. I'm using the overall clear deltron DC 4000 with the warm weather reducer. This stuff lays out beautiful. What I love so much about this devilbiss gun is I can really control my texture with the gun. I can make it look like a piece of glass, or I can control the fluid tip or my air pressure, and put your factory textures, and depending on how the vehicle looks, I can match that quality with just the twist of a knob. So nice. It's such a durable gun. It's probably the most versatile gun I've ever owned. Well worth $800. They've actually been out quite a while now. If you shop around, you probably can get them for about $500 or $600. It's well worth the money. Definitely something you need in your arsenal. When applying the clear, your overlaps are crucial. Not only that, you want to keep that gun just as parallel to the surface as possible. You're literally trying to mimic a robot. You always want to know where you've been and where you're going. Keep your eyes on where your gun come from and make adjustments in your speed and distance from there. Just try to keep your 75% overlap. And that's really the tricky thing on these panels. These panels curve and move so much. It's really tricky keeping your 75% perfect, but really that's what makes or breaks a paint job. You see, I was out of clear. That was my first coat. This is the second coat. I believe I'm gonna leave this one slow for you guys so you can really see the whole process and its actual speed. And here we go. On my second coat of clear, I generally try to hit the edges first and then hit the major part of the panel. If you just step back and lay the clear on your major panel, like your hood for instance, and then you come back and touch up your corners with your clear, you're slamming overspray on your nice smooth panel. So it's best to hit your edges first and then knock out that major panel. It doesn't always work that way, but it's great to keep that in mind if possible, depending on the curvature and what you're working on. Notice how parallel the gun is to the panel. You do not want to tilt that gun. If you tilt the cup up, the bottom edge of your fan pattern is gonna be so heavy. It could lay out like glass, who knows? It's best to think like a robot and lay it out perfect. It could prevent a lot of problems, solvent pop, runs, dry spray. Because when that bottom edge is wet, the top edge is dry, people. Of course, in something like that, you see where I was on the bottom, you have to make adjustments for the curves. You have to play with things. You see I hit that lip and then I hit the major panel like I was discussing earlier. Also, you notice that I go about 3 inches into the door when I do that panel. 3 inches into the door. You do not want to build that clear up. If you stopped on the edge of that fender, boom, every time you made a pass, then you jumped on that door and you stopped right at the edge of that door, you're hammering that clear on that line. You're gonna have so much buildup on the edge of that door and fender. It's always best to go over 3 or 4 inches and then follow suit and continue that on out. Notice I have a very slight flick of the wrist at the end of each stroke. It's only because I'm overlapping like I was discussing earlier. I'm going over that panel 3 and 4 inches. I'm just kind of blowing it in just slightly. You hardly ever want to whip your gun on the edge of a panel. You're just creating heavy spots, light spots. But a slight flicker, just a slight flicker is fine in most cases. Keep that gun trigger pulled. Don't start and stop. All you're doing is just spitting product. When you stop that gun, that clear on the end of your tip will dry. It'll dry pretty quick. When you hit that trigger again, it's just gonna spit all over you. I've seen so many painters just they'll make one stroke, stop, start, stop, start, just spitting and spitting. You want to keep that gun, you want to keep that trigger pulled, you want to keep that gun working, you want to be thinking ahead of where you're moving to. Obviously you see how I restarted, but I was spraying it towards the ground. You never point your paint gun towards the vehicle as you squeeze the trigger, unless of course you're 40 feet away from it. Stay consecutive, stay consistent. I tell you what, it really helps. If you want to film yourself and rewatch it, you can tell all your bad habits by watching yourself back. I can see a few I do. I've been doing it 23 years and I feel like I have it down to an art, but still, I still see things that I do that I don't believe in. It's just habits. The more you watch yourself, the more you film yourself, the better you'll be. Here's a final walk around. That's before the flash, actually. I pretty much just put my gun on the rack, grabbed the camera and walked around it. That clear will still flow out some. I mean, you're looking at a factory texture or better than factory texture. I was very pleased with it. Center of that hood's so hard for me to reach. I had step stools on both sides. There's my blend. Another walk around. This time I'll go a little lower. Show you the parts nobody ever shows you. If done right, it'll never be dry there because I'm consistent. I'm like a robot. My panel lap, my overlap, where I'm going from fender 3 inches into the door 3 inches to the next door, and my distance from the panel, I try to stay as consecutive as possible. Anyways, I'd like to thank you for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Stay tuned.